The Lighthouse Keeper's Daughter Sleep Story series is very soothing, so stay calm and enjoy. The fairy cuts through morning fog like a needle through silk, slow, steady, inevitable. Margaret stands at the railing, one hand gripping the cold metal, the other clutching a canvas bag that holds everything she owns that matters. 3 changes of clothes, her grandmother's recipe book, a photograph of her mother, and a letter offering her a job she's still not entirely sure she wants. The water is gray-green, opaque, revealing nothing of what lies beneath. Seabirds wheel overhead, their cries sharp and lonely in the mist. Behind her, the mainland has already disappeared, swallowed by the fog. Ahead, somewhere in all that whiteness, lies Crescent Island. She's never been good with boats. Her stomach rolls with each swell, and she focuses on breathing, in through the nose, out through the mouth, the way her grandmother taught her during childhood anxieties. And out, and out. The rhythm helps, though not as much as she'd like. A man appears beside her at the railing, materializing from the fog like a ghost. He's old, 70 maybe older, with a face weathered by decades of salt air and a thick gray beard that reaches his chest. He doesn't look at her, just stares out at the water. First time crossing? His voice is rough and used to conversation. Yes. Her own voice sounds small against the vastness of the sea. He nods once, as if this confirms something he already knew. Islands different from the mainland. Quieter. Slower. Some people can't take it. The silence, the waiting, the way time moves out there. They come back on the next ferry. And some people stay? Some do. He finally looks at her, his eyes the same gray-green as the water. Those are usually the ones who need the quiet. The ones running from something loud. Margaret doesn't know what to say to that, so she says nothing. They stand together in silence, watching the fog until gradually, so slowly she almost doesn't notice, shapes begin to emerge from the whiteness. First, the dark smudge of land. Then clearer the outline of cliffs. And finally, rising from the northernmost point like a white finger pointing at heaven, the lighthouse. It's taller than she expected, more solitary. Even from this distance, she can see the cottage huddled beside it, small and gray against the cliff face. That's where she'll live now. Where she'll work. Where she'll keep the light burning for ships that pass in the night. That's it then, the old man says, though it's not clear if he's talking to her or to himself. The ferry's horn sounds, low, mournful, announcing their arrival. Margaret tightens her grip on her bag and watches Crescent Island grow larger, close. Or more real. The harbor is nothing like she imagined. In her mind, shaped by tourist brochures and optimistic assumptions, she pictured a bustling dock, fishermen hauling in their morning catch, children playing on the pier, the warm chaos of community. What she finds instead is 5 wooden buildings clinging to the shoreline like barnacles, a single stone pier reaching into the water, and perhaps a dozen boats bobbing at anchor. 3 people wait on the dock. 2 middle-aged men in work clothes and a woman with steel gray hair tied back in a bun. That's it. That's the welcoming committee. The ferry bumps against the pier with a hollow thud, and deckhands throw ropes to secure it. Margaret waits her turn to disembark, letting the other passengers go first. A young couple with hiking gear, an older woman carrying what looks like medical supplies, a man in a business suit who seems profoundly out of place. When she finally steps onto the pier, her legs wobble slightly, still adjusted to the ferry's motion. The woman with gray hair approaches immediately, hand extended. "You must be Margaret Shin. I'm Helen Carver, harbor master, postmistress, and keeper of general information." Her grip is firm, calloused. "Welcome to Crescent Island." "Thank you." Margaret returns the handshake, grateful for the warmth in Helen's voice. "It's good to be here." "Is it?" Helen's smile is knowing, not unkind. "Give it a week before you decide that. The island has a way of testing newcomers." She gestures toward the buildings behind her. "That's the general store, the pub, the post office, which is also my house, the church, and what passes for a medical clinic. Everything else you need, you won't find here." "I'm not looking for much." "Good. Because much isn't what we offer." Helen picks up one of Margaret's 2 suitcases, the smaller one, and starts walking toward a battered truck parked near the store. "The lighthouse is about 3 miles north. I'll drive you up. The path's walkable, but not with luggage and not on your first day." Margaret follows, taking in details as they go. The buildings are weathered but well maintained, their paint fresh even if the style is decades old. A few people watch from windows, curious faces that duck away when she tries to meet their eyes. She counts maybe 8 or 9 total residents visible, though Helen mentioned the island has a permanent population of 43. "Not many people," Margaret observes as they load her bags into the truck bed. "Not many people want what the island offers," Helen says, climbing into the driver's seat. "Which is mostly solitude, hard work, and the ocean's moods. Those who stay are here because nowhere else makes sense anymore." The truck's engine coughs to life, and they pull away from the harbor, following a narrow gravel road that hugs the coastline. To the left, the ocean stretches endlessly. To the right, the island rises in gentle hills covered with wild grass and stunted trees bent by constant wind. The previous keeper was a man named James Whitmore, Helen says, her eyes on the road. "He was here for 32 years. Raised his daughter in that cottage, kept the light burning through storms that would make you pray to gods you don't believe in. He retired last month, moved to the mainland to be near his grandchildren. He loved this island more than most people love anything." There's a weight in how she says it, a warning wrapped in admiration. "I'll do my best to honor that," Margaret says. "I'm sure you will. The question is whether your best is what the island needs." Helen glances at her, expression unreadable. But that's not for me to judge. The lighthouse will tell you if you belong. They drive in silence after that, the truck bouncing over ruts and potholes, the ocean constant and unchanging beside them. Margaret watches the lighthouse grow larger, closer, more imposing. Its white tower is weathered but strong, built from stones that have stood for over a century. The cottage beside it looks smaller from this angle, more vulnerable, pressed against the cliff as if seeking shelter from the wind. Helen parks the truck in a small clearing beside the cottage, and they sit there for a moment, the engine ticking as it cools. The wind is stronger up here, whistling through cracks in the truck's body, carrying the sharp scent of brine and seaweed. He left everything in good order, Helen says, finally opening her door. Food in the pantry, firewood stacked, lantern room cleaned and ready. You'll need to check the mechanism tonight. It's automated now, but it still requires human oversight. Instructions are on the desk in the cottage. Margaret climbs out, her legs steadier now, and retrieves her bags from the truck bed. The cottage door is painted blue, faded by salt and sun to almost gray, and it opens easily when Helen turns the key. The hinges don't creak. Everything about this place seems well maintained, cared for, loved. Inside, the cottage is smaller than she expected but immediately comfortable. The main room serves as kitchen, dining area, and living space, with a stone fireplace dominating one wall. The furniture is simple: a wooden table with 4 chairs, a worn couch facing the fireplace, shelves lined with books whose spines show years of reading. Everything is clean, organized, ready for her. Bedrooms through there, Helen says, pointing to a door on the left. Bathroom beside it. Water comes from a well, so don't waste it. The lighthouse entrance is through the door on the right. You'll need to climb the stairs each evening to check the light. 73 steps. You'll feel it in your legs for the first week. Margaret sets down her bags and moves to the window above the kitchen sink. The view steals her breath. Nothing but ocean, stretching to the horizon, vast and indifferent and beautiful. She can see the curve of the island's coastline, the way the cliffs drop sharply to the water, the white foam where waves break against rocks below. It's stunning, she whispers. It is, Helen agrees. It's also relentless. The ocean never stops, never rests, never forgives mistakes. You'll learn to respect that or you won't last. She hands Margaret the key and a folder thick with papers. Instructions, emergency contacts, maintenance schedules. Read everything. Follow it precisely. The light has been burning for 137 years without fail. Don't be the keeper who breaks that record. I won't. Helen studies her for a moment, then nods. I believe you mean that. We'll see if the island agrees. She moves toward the door, then pauses. I come up every Wednesday with supplies and mail. If you need anything before then, There's a radio in the lighthouse office. Channel 7 reaches the harbor. Use it for emergencies only. We're not set up for casual conversation. Understood. Good luck, Margaret. I hope you find what you're looking for out here. And then she's gone, the truck's engine fading as she drives back down the gravel road, leaving Margaret alone with the wind and the waves and the lighthouse that is now her responsibility. She stands in the middle of the cottage, listening to the silence. It's not really silent. The wind howls around the corners, the ocean crashes against the cliffs below, the cottage timbers creak and settle. But it's silent of human noise, of conversation and traffic and all the sounds that filled her life on the mainland. This is what she wanted, isn't it? This escape, this solitude, this chance to disappear into work that matters. She's about to find out. Margaret spends the afternoon unpacking and reading. Her possessions look meager spread across the cottage. Clothes in the bedroom dresser, toiletries in the bathroom cabinet, her grandmother's recipe book on the kitchen shelf beside James Whitmore's collection of maritime histories and navigation manuals. The photograph of her mother goes on the bedside table, propped against the lamp. Her mother's smile is warm, captured in a moment of joy that seems distant now, unreachable. The folder Helen left contains everything she needs to know, written in James's careful handwriting. Equipment checks, maintenance protocols, storm procedures, emergency contacts. She reads each page twice, committing the important details to memory, then sets it aside and simply looks out the window. The afternoon light is extraordinary. It changes constantly, shifting from harsh clarity to soft gold as the sun drops toward the horizon. The ocean's color changes with it, from blue-gray to silver to something approaching bronze. Margaret watches clouds build on the horizon, their shapes suggesting rain sometime tonight. At 5 o'clock, following the schedule, she makes her way to the lighthouse door. The key turns smoothly, and she steps into a narrow passage that immediately begins to spiral upward. The stairs are stone, worn smooth by more than a century of footsteps, and they wind tightly, making her feel like she's climbing inside a shell. Helen was right about the climb. By the time she reaches the top, she counts them, 73 steps exactly. Her legs are trembling and her breath comes fast. But when she pushes through the final door into the lantern room, all discomfort vanishes. The room is circular, surrounded by windows that offer a 360-degree view of the ocean. The light mechanism sits in the center, a beautiful construction of brass and crystal, automated now but still requiring human care. Instructions are posted on the wall, and Margaret follows them carefully. Check the rotation, verify the backup power, clean the lenses, ensure the timer is set correctly. The sun is setting now, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and deep purple. Margaret watches it sink toward the horizon, enormous and slow, and feels something in her chest loosen. some knot of anxiety she's been carrying for months finally beginning to unravel. At exactly 6:47 p.m., as the sun touches the horizon, the lighthouse beam begins to turn. It starts slowly, the massive lens rotating on its track, sending light sweeping across the darkening ocean. One revolution takes 20 seconds. The beam reaches out, powerful, steady, unwavering, cutting through the gathering dark. Margaret stands at the window watching the light sweep past her again and again, and for the first time in months she feels something like peace. She descends the stairs more slowly than she climbed them, her hand trailing along the cool stone wall. The cottage feels different when she returns, more welcoming, more like it might become home. She lights the fire using wood from the neatly stacked pile beside the hearth, following the same method her grandmother taught her. Kindling first, then progressively larger pieces, building the fire gradually so it catches properly. The flames take hold, filling the room with warmth and the sweet smell of burning applewood. Margaret makes a simple dinner from the supplies James left. Pasta with tinned tomatoes, a slice of bread, a cup of tea. She eats at the table by the window, watching full darkness fall over the ocean, broken only by her lighthouse beam sweeping past every 20 seconds. After dinner, she washes the dishes and sets them to dry, then settles on the couch with one of James's books, a history of lighthouses along this coast. But she finds she can't focus on the words. Her eyes keep drifting to the window, to the darkness beyond, to the light that sweeps and sweeps and sweeps. She thinks about why she's here, about what she's running from. The noise of the city, yes. The constant pressure to be someone she wasn't, to want things she didn't want, to live a life that made sense to everyone except her. But deeper than that, she's running from her own failure to figure out what she wanted instead. At 32 she should know herself better. She should have answers, plans, a clear sense of direction. Instead she has this: a lighthouse on an island at the edge of the world, a job keeping light burning for ships that might never come, and the hope that solitude will somehow provide the clarity that noise never did. The fire burns low and Margaret doesn't rebuild it. She's tired, bone tired, the kind of exhaustion that comes from emotional weight rather than physical exertion. She changes into pajamas, brushes her teeth, and climbs into the narrow bed in the cottage's single bedroom. The mattress is firmer than she's used to, and the sheets smell faintly of lavender, James's doing or perhaps his daughter's. Through the bedroom window she can see the lighthouse beam sweeping past, regular as a heartbeat. 20 seconds between each pass. She counts them, letting the rhythm lull her. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Somewhere around the 12th rotation, Margaret's eyes close. The ocean continues its eternal conversation with the shore. The wind continues to whistle around the cottage corners. And the lighthouse beam continues to turn, steady and bright, cutting through darkness with patient, unwavering light. Margaret wakes to pale light filtering through thin curtains and the sound of seabirds crying. For a moment she doesn't know where she is. The ceiling is unfamiliar, the quality of the light is wrong, and there's a smell, salt and damp and something green, that doesn't match any place she's lived before. Then memory returns. The ferry, the island, the lighthouse, her new life. She lies still for a moment, listening. The wind has died down overnight, and the ocean sounds different in the calm, less aggressive, almost gentle. She can hear individual waves breaking, can distinguish between the crash and the susurration of water sliding back across stones. Rising, she pads to the window and looks out. The view is even more spectacular in morning light, the ocean stretching endlessly, its surface rippled with small waves that catch the sun and throw back silver. The sky is clear, washed clean by yesterday's weather, and visibility extends for miles. She can see ships on the horizon, tiny shapes that might be fishing boats or might be cargo vessels passing between distant ports. Did her lighthouse guide any of them last night? Did captains mark their position by her light, trusting it to tell them where they were? The thought gives her a strange satisfaction. She helped someone even if she'll never know who. She kept the light burning, and that mattered. She makes breakfast, oatmeal with dried fruit, a pot of strong tea, and eats standing at the kitchen window, unable to tear herself away from the view. Everything here moves so slowly compared to the mainland. Clouds drift rather than race. Birds soar rather than dart. Even her own thoughts seem to spread out, taking up more space, moving with less urgency. After breakfast, she climbs the lighthouse stairs again, still breathless by the top, but slightly less so than yesterday. She checks the mechanism, cleans the lenses, confirms that everything is working as it should. The morning light streaming through the lantern room windows is gorgeous, transforming the brass fittings to gold, making the crystal lenses sparkle like diamonds. From this height, she can see the entire island, the harbor to the south, the interior hills, the way the land rises and falls before dropping sharply at the cliffs. It's beautiful in a stark, unforgiving way. Beautiful because it doesn't try to be anything other than what it is. She descends the stairs and spends the rest of the morning exploring the cottage, opening drawers and cabinets, learning where everything is kept. James Whitmore was an organized man. Everything has its place and everything is labeled. She finds his log books in a drawer beneath the desk, years and years of daily entries, recording weather conditions, ships sighted, maintenance performed. The most recent entry is dated 3 weeks ago. April 3rd. Clear morning, wind from the southwest. Light functioning normally. Replaced worn bearing and rotation mechanism. This is my last entry in this log. Tomorrow I leave for the mainland, for a different kind of life among grandchildren and noise and easy comforts. I've loved this work more than I knew how to say. To whoever reads this, the light matters. Keep it burning. Margaret runs her fingers over the words, feeling the slight indentation where his pen pressed hard on the final sentence. Keep it burning. She takes a new logbook from the drawer. There are several unused ones, presumably for exactly this purpose, and writes her first entry. April 23rd. Arrived yesterday in fog. Seas moderate, wind from the west. First night passed without incident. Light functioning normally. I'm not sure yet what I'm doing here or if I'm capable of doing it well. But I'll try. I'll keep the light burning. She sets down the pen and closes the logbook. Outside, the ocean continues its eternal rhythm, indifferent to her doubts, her hopes, her presence. But the lighthouse stands solid and sure, its beam ready to sweep through darkness when evening comes. And Margaret realizes that's all she needs to do, be like the lighthouse. Stand firm. Do the work. Let the light shine. The rest will sort itself out. Or it won't. Either way, she'll be here, keeping the light burning. Rest now, dear listener. Let Margaret's journey into solitude and purpose carry you into your own dreams. The lighthouse beam sweeps through darkness, steady and sure. All is well. Sleep comes naturally, like tides, like breath, like light returning each evening without fail. The light burns on. You're safe. Rest.